Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 28th of March. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this bright and breezy March morning by Joshua Barrie. How are we doing, Joshua?
We're being spoiled with the weather, aren't we?
It's been certainly are, yeah.
Great weekend. Looking forward to obviously the big game on Sunday, and as ever, good to be through the first week of internationals, Derek. Although there's been a few good games, but it's good to be closer to the real stuff.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I've not really seen anything apart from Macedonia's late goal against Italy, which was a coupon buster, shall we say, that one. Before we talk about all things Rangers, folks, if you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, thousands of you are now doing so thanks very much for that. If you just hit that subscribe button, it means that you'll never miss a video when we go live. And if you want to take advantage of the website itself, I'd urge you all to do so. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk. I've put the link in the comments section, rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Just £2.99 a month to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Some big talking points over the weekend, Joshua. We'll touch on the Legends games. First of all, at Ibrox on Saturday. I made my way up to it. It was a fantastic festival of football. I think that the weather certainly helped, but the turnout, just over 38,000 made their way to Ibrox, which was absolutely tremendous. Some superstars on display, and some of the players that were playing could still cut it today. On the Rangers side, I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst hasn't lost it. George Alberts looks the same. Sasa Papach, Johnny McFarlane was there. He says he could still do a job today as well. And then on the World 11s, you had the likes of Ricardo Quaresma, who was absolutely fantastic. He scored a beauty of a goal. Still playing, of course, over it in Portugal. Luis Figo looked every inch of class act, and Kaká as well, amongst many others. Did you see any of the game, Joshua, at the weekend?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw bits and pieces, although yourself and Johnny were there. I think it's the first weekend I've actually been off, Derek, since we came back for the football. So, but it looked like a great day at Ibrox, and as ever, I seem to miss the sunny occasions at Ibrox. But no, it looked great. My dad gave me his little match report, and he seemed to say that the World 11 had a couple more runners, a few more legs, helped them up the pitch. But great, and obviously, the goal with Gaz at the end seemed to be a great moment. I think a great day had by all. I mean, who stood out to you? Because from the bits I saw, you looked at Figo and Kaká, and you still thought, wow, they can still do it. And Kaká was playing it up until 3-4 years ago in America, was he not?
Yeah, he's still very much got it. Johnny was on the Rangers player ratings. I was on the World 11, and he, Figo, and Quaresma, who I gave a 9 in the ratings, I thought was just a step above, but understandable considering he's still playing. Although I don't think he's Roy Mackay's sort of player. With his bag of tricks, I don't think he would fit in well at Rangers, I've got to admit. But like you say, Gaza coming on at the end, fantastic to see. What a reception he received from the crowd. It was a great day all round, really. And Luis Figo, of course, spoke very highly of the club as well when he came in the post-match press conference, of course, raising money as well for his foundation. So really good causes, a lot of money raised on Saturday. So hats off to all involved. Let's look ahead now then, Joshua, because the build-up really begins towards Sunday, and that huge Old Firm clash at Ibrox, Rangers taking on Celtic, of course. Now, you've got a piece on the website this morning with regards to the recent B-team game at Ibrox. Rangers, of course, ran out convincing winners in that one. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into what subscribers can find on there?
Yeah, well, this is just one of a number of things that we'll have, obviously, in the lead up to the game, Derek. It's such a big game. I think it's the biggest kind of Old Firm game in terms of what it could mean in the season, certainly for a good few seasons. Already really looking forward to it. The B-team game is just one angle that we're looking at. Reason being, obviously, I was in attendance for the B-team game, which was, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I think it's just an interesting parallel looking at how obviously the tactics filter down to the B team. That's what you hear about all the time. McCallum said that a good few times, because the reason being that the players are being developed, but players meant to be developed for the first team. And if you want to be developed for the first team, you need to kind of understand what's going on and what your role involves and how you ought to play in that specific role. But the game plan that McCallum used was just really interesting, and it was aggressive. And I think there's a lot of similarities in the way that you can target the B team and the A team. Obviously, it's not personnel related, and it's very hypothetical. But as you well know, we like to do things a bit different and look at different angles. So it feeds into a wider conversation of how do Rangers approach it? How should they play off the ball? How aggressive should they be? And how much will that help them? Is it better to be really aggressive and leave a little bit of space in behind? You know, we all saw what happened at Parkhead when Rangers gave up control really of their own half and just faced a barrage of attacks for that first 45 minutes. Subscribers can go and read that, and we'll have lots more this week. Looking at how Bodo Glimt beat Celtic so convincingly, looking at what Rangers need to do differently in this game compared to the last game, which, spoiler alert, is probably everything apart from the last a few moments in the second half. So lots of content to come up. But I think the key conversation, Derek, is how do Rangers approach this game? Because if they lose it, you know, it's pretty unthinkable from this vantage point. And I think for everyone involved, a win is a must. Because if you win this game and then you go and win in Europe, the momentum will just be, you know, unbelievable. But also you risk if you have one defeat, then it could kind of derail it. So such a big month coming up, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation actually about the game if it's must win on the brilliant Battle Fever podcast on Friday. For me, it's must not lose, Joshua. Now, I think a victory is huge. I think ideally Rangers need to win, but at the same time, I don't think they can afford to lose it. I think if a draw is not the end of the world, is what I'm trying to say. But I think a victory in this game, it would set Rangers up nicely. Still a great number of challenges to face, of course, after Sunday. But for me, it's pivotal that they don't lose a game.
I mean, I don't think if they drew the game, then you would say the title's over. But given that Celtic have a pretty, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a pretty superior goal difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much like 4 points.
Yeah. And because obviously the second Old Firm is away from home, the fourth Old Firm is away from home. For me, I think it's must win that. And I just think that, you know, you look at that game in February, Derek, and, you know, going in 3-0 down at half time, you know, it was the worst situation imaginable, especially off the drop points in the games coming up to it from a position of strength at the winter break. And then you have the month of February, and although there's a couple of drop points, you have the European results getting through to the last 8 in Europe. Van Bronckhorst seems to kind of settle on a system that gives them that balance in midfield. Rangers generally look better across the board, apart from a disappointing second half against Motherwell and the kind of freak drop points in a way against Dundee United. It was, you know, a very good month and a half or so. I think if you start off the next section, if you will, with a victory, it could just be so important and almost rectify what went wrong in February. So for me, you know, you're always kind of hesitant to call it a must-win, but I think given, is this the 7th last game of the season or 8th last game of the season, Derek? One of the two.
After this, I believe it's 6 games after this, I'm sure.
Well, it's not long, is it? It's not long at all. Yeah. Rangers obviously, you know, have potentially, or looks like they'll have a lot of away games after the split, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Rangers will also have another number of games in Europe. Absolutely huge game, and I think Ibrox will be undoubtedly ready for it. And I think that definitely the supporters should have, I think, a lot more confidence with, after the last couple of months, after Van Bronckhorst has kind of settled on. The midfield is the big one for me of Lundstrom and Jack, just how much more that'll give you in a game like this compared to the midfield in the last game. And also I think Van Bronckhorst will have really learned from the approach of what he tried to do last time. And being at home as well will help Rangers be on the front foot. And I think that's how you beat Celtic. You've got to go and be aggressive against them and not grant them control, because they are good in the final third. There's no point in, you know, pretending otherwise, because that's just disingenuous. Rangers, but I do think if they're aggressive and if they can start the game in Celtic's half, being at home obviously helps that, then they can win.
Yeah, good question that's came in here from Rangers 1979, Joshua. If Morelos is half fit, should he start or be kept for Braga? Roof has looked sharp. His take is, even if Morelos is half fit, he should be on the bench. Now, this is, of course, coming off the back of the fact that Colombia have sent him home after that muscular overload, they called it. Good news in a way that he's coming back to Ibrox early. I think another wasted trip heading halfway around the world there. We've seen him with that strapping on at Dens Park when he came off. It has looked rather jaded in the last few games, Joshua. It'll be interesting to see if he starts on Sunday.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it was obviously good news from a Rangers perspective that this is going to give him an enforced break. And I think he did need that, because I think since Van Bronckhorst arrived at the club, you'd be hard pressed to find people who wouldn't say that Morelos' form has improved and he's looked much better, especially in moments. But I think he's played so much football that then the odd league game where he doesn't quite make the impact, and that kind of waters down probably the impact he has had in certain games. I think Roof has looked sharp. I completely agree with the comment. But I think that what you have seen from Van Bronckhorst is Morelos is obviously so important. So not just the way that Morelos plays individually, but the team plays. The reason being that Roof started 3 times and hardly started as a central striker, which to me shows that Morelos is just so important and to the way that Rangers play, and Van Bronckhorst views it as that. So listen, I would love to have Roof in the side more. I think I've tweeted about it to death. I think it's really important, especially in games where Rangers have a lot of the ball, that they have another goal scorer in that front line, because with a front three of our field, Kent and Morelos don't score enough goals domestically, bluntly. You need someone who I think can operate really well in tight spaces, who can create chances out of nothing, who can score goals like Roof scored against Aberdeen, where they just hit off him and go in because he's in the right position, because he's getting goal side of the defender. But saying that, I think in this Old Firm, and we'll get into this throughout the week, Derek, I would 100% be starting Aaron Ramsey, and I think Joe Reed will probably as well, depending on how he comes back from international duty, because obviously that's kind of been a bit of a concern ever since he was away at AFCON. But I think in this game, you can get away. You're going to have more space. It's going to suit Kent and Morelos more. But I think Roof has looked sharp, and over these next 6 games, when you're playing against teams who aren't going to leave as much space, just play Kemar Roof.
Yeah, it's a good question. I agree with Aldo, actually. I hate the international break as well, Aldo, I must admit. Fraser Reid with a good point here, Joshua, when you mentioned about Ramsey. He says Lundstrom, Ramsey and Jack wins in the middle of the park for him. Would you be quite happy with that midfield trio?
I think if you have... I definitely agree that the Lundstrom and Jack is so important. Going back to what Van Bronckhorst said when he first brought that partnership in, Derek, I'm right in saying was at home against Hearts, and he said he needed. I think the line was character and basically dependability, and that's what Lundstrom and Jack gives you. I think Ramsey and Aribo probably can alternate between the right and the middle, depending on what Rangers want to do within the game, and it gives them that flexibility. If you want Ramsey's best trait, from all I've read and all I've seen, and Johnny had a great piece on the website over the weekend speaking about this, is his runs from deep and his movement. And I think sometimes in the middle, depending on the game, if he's got his back to goal, he can't quite do that as much. Whereas if he comes off the right into the middle, he can kind of impact the game a little bit more untracked. But then at times, if Rangers have a lot of the ball, perhaps he is better in the middle. So I think certainly I'd either Rebo into that, and then Kent and Morelos ahead of them, and the shape can kind of alternate. Maybe they can go through the middle at points. Maybe at points you keep Kent glued to the touchline. And you certainly get James Tavernier higher on the other side of the pitch. But I think undoubtedly that's kind of your strongest team that gets your most important players in there. As I say, with the caveat from my opinion, when you play against a team that's perhaps lower down the league, you play Kemar Roof to make sure you've got enough of a goal threat in that team. But I think, if you look at the midfield and the setup in the last Old Firm, it's a low bar to compare with, Derek, but I think it'll be a very different setup and kind of intention from the off. I don't think Rangers are going to man mark and get pulled all over the place. And as I say, I think the regression from the start will make it much more difficult for Celtic than they made it in the last tie. But I agree, all those 3 need to start. I think John Lundstrom will be absolutely pivotal. And I fully expect him to have a big game, especially after he's had a bit of a rest. And hopefully Ryan Jack comes back from international duty and he's not played too much football, and he's ready to go as well because he'll be so important in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning to John, who's late to the show this morning, just back from the shops. That's a fine, John. No, good to have you along with us as always. And he does make the point here. These are the kind of games we brought Ramsey in for. He must start on Sunday. Do you go along with that, Joshua? I mean, of course, he started at Dens Park last week, and I think he's pretty much spot on here, John. But who drops out for him? That's the big question for me.
I think Scott Arfield, for me, it's. I completely agree with John. This is why we brought Ramsey into the club. He's looked sharp. I thought he looked really good. I watched some of the Wales game recently. I thought he looked really good. You're paying, you're paying, I guess, still a considerable wage for Rangers, even though it's nothing compared to what he was getting at Juventus. And he needs to play, and let's not, we've not quite seen it in a big game, but Aaron Ramsey is unbelievable quality. No one else in that Rangers squad has had a career like he has, or impacted games at a high level like he has because of that. And I think playing him against Celtic is an absolute no-brainer, even if he could only do 60, 70 minutes. But he played, 96 minutes for Wales the other night. I thought he looked sharp against Dundee. So he definitely comes into that midfield for me. I mean, I tend to think that what Rangers will probably do is they'll put a Rebo out on the right. It'll be a little bit more Gerrard-esque than we've seen recently. Kent and Morelos will, as I say, have a bit sort of a free role, but I think you'll see Kent wide left at the start, and then you'll have a midfield probably of Ramsey, Jack, and Lundstram, with Ramsey given a bit of a free role and the ability to run beyond. But I think because Rangers have lacked a consistent option on the right, and in this type of game, they probably need more of a one-on-one threat than an Arfield or a Ramsey out there. It's different to the kind of cup game against Dundee, in my opinion, where you've got a lot of the ball and you can create lots of overloads on that right side. I think as I say, I think you probably need a little bit more of a 1v1 threat out there. So that's the team I think we will go for, and Aaron Ramsey definitely has to start. It will give the whole crowd a lift as well, Derek, because I think would that be his first start at Ibrox, I think?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. So he has to start for me, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If he's 100% fit, and as Jimmy mentions there, he was good against Austria for Wales, and these games are certainly bringing on his match sharpness, there's no doubt about it. I wanted to finish up, Joshua, by talking about Phil Helander. Apparently, he said that he's very sad at not being included in the European squad for Rangers. Of course, asked Giovanni Van Bronckhorst about this at the time, and he said it was a very difficult decision for him, but he based it on the players that were available at the time. Now, Helander, of course, Rangers going deep in the competition. He's back fit, of course, and he says it's disappointing not to be involved. You can understand his thinking there, I'd imagine, Joshua, and he's been such a big player for Rangers in Europe as well. It's big miss not having him available. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of enforced rotation because one of Balogun and Helander would be playing the league and Cup, Europa League, sorry. Anyway, I guess dependent on if they were playing Thursday, Sunday. But it's something you've not really thought about because when it's injury related, you don't think that the player can be involved. But obviously, Rangers going further than I think everyone expected. Also, having John Lundstram play at centre half a fair amount in Europe, and you've got Calvin Bassey. I guess Van Bronckhorst will think, look, I've got the cover there. And if Helander has struggled with fitness all season, then he can be the Premiership defender. So it might work out brilliantly because Helander can help Rangers win the league and Balogun the Europa.
Yeah.
But no, I as we were speaking about off camera, you do forget with these situations that players will want to play these games, and it'll be a very frustrating thing for them. And Helander's been an excellent player for Rangers in Europe, going back to when he first joined. And you can definitely trace back a lot of the difficult times Rangers have had in the last few years has been when Helander's been injured, which I think probably is no coincidence. But if Rangers can get back to a Helander-Goldson partnership for the final 7 league games, for me, I think that gives you the best option. One of the big reasons as well, just aside from his defending, Derek, is he's left-footed, and I just think that brings so much of a better balance. I mean, I don't think Helander's an unbelievable passer. I think he's a pretty good passer out the back. But he gives you that balance on his left foot, whereas Balogun, I think, although he can carry the ball forwards, I don't think he moves the ball across the pitch as quickly. So yeah, hopefully it works out well, and you can keep both players fresh for either competition. And as I say, I think the versatility of Lundstrom to move into the back line. We've obviously seen James Sands do the same thing. It means that Rangers feel they probably have the cover in that area. But yeah, maybe in hindsight, if Van Bronckhorst knew he'd get this far, he'd have made a different decision. Who knows?
Yeah. I think you would have maybe reconsidered. Okay, that'll do us there, folks. Thanks to everyone for getting involved with the comments as ever. It really is much appreciated. I'm just popping Joshua's piece on the B team Old Firm win in the chat, in the descriptions, in the comments section, so you can have a wee look at that if you would like to. Remember, if you want to take advantage of the site itself, rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe is the page to go to. Just £2.99 a month to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday.